Mike, what's going on, buddy?
Here we go.
All right. Hopefully this thing will
All right.
will work this time. Okay. So
Basically,
guys.
yeah, go ahead.
All right. So we're starting a new video, guys. I'm Chris. I will be taking the side of the long nut, or excuse me, the
Oh,
figured you like that.
welcome
That
aboard.
that there was a rush to judgment in this case, and there was a conspiracy. Mike, on the other hand, is of the belief that the Warren Commission did this. I mean, that the Warren Commission report that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. and
I do not fully agree with the Warren Commission, but I do think Lee acted alone. Yeah.
Okay, um, really. All right,
No, I,
so
I I
we're
think
going to
there's some screw ups in the Warren Commission, but I think the HSCA cleared things up.
really. Well, HSCA also ruled he was killed by result of a conspiracy too. Correct?
Yeah, but we could. That's the Dick the Bout recordings.
Well, not all of it was based on it. But anyway, we're going into something way there. So anyway, tonight we're going to be going into segment three or maybe four of this, depending on how long it runs, of what happened that day in Dealey Plaza.
Yes,
Um,
perfect, perfect.
Job tonight is to take the gun out of Lee Oswald's hands and
Okay,
prove
then
there
we'll
was.
also get into the shots.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll try to get.
witnesses, Noel, and various other locations of shooters.
And C 399,
Yes.
and I'm prepared to name my shooters tonight. Mike says he has his shooters. I
Yeah.
have mine.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
first, so first, so first of all, in order to take the gun out of Lee Harvey Oswald's hands, nobody could have made that shot. Um, it's on a downward slope at a moving target. The first one was up under heavy foliage.
That's why the first shot missed.
It's moving away from you. Um, and Oswald was an average shot at best. Some people say he's qualified as a sharpshooter. That's not that hard. I mean, I fired a rifle in the Army. But anyway, just take the gun out of his hand. First of all, I would like to go and say that Warren Commission, Volume 3, pages 403 to 410, and page 446, three FBI sharpshooters could not match Oswald's shooting with the speed and accuracy of it that it take to have those shots. Um, Also, the Mandler Carcano, and this they used the same weapon that he fired with. The Mandler Carcano, I mean, that was one of the world's worst shoulder weapons. It was called the Humane Rifle in World War II. And even after they found out they could not sight the weapon, and even after fixing the iron sights with three metal shims, Commission 576, 577, and 578, those was the three metal shims that it took to sight it. The three FBI sharpshooters still could not match Oswald's shooting. So there you have it right in the Warren Commission that three expert shooters could not match an average person or an average shooters that Oswald was could not match what he did.
Okay. Okay, so
This
that's
was
what.
also at stationary targets.
That's the Warren Commission shooters that tried to do that.
Mhm.
But later on, I don't know what year it was. The CBS recreation. Uh, uh, they had
With
11
Dan
right.
Rather?
Huh?
With Dan Rather?
Yes, sir. They had 11 riflemen. They hit two of the three targets, which was Oswald's accuracy, slightly less than 5 seconds. Weapons engineer had the best score, made three of three hits in 5.2 seconds, meaning he was operating the bolt and firing accurately every 1.7 seconds, clearly besting Oswald. And as far as the man Carcano being a piece of junk, Um, Ronald Simmons, Chief of Infantry Weapons Evaluations Branch of the Army, had his people fire Oswald's actual Carcano 47 times and testified that it was quote unquote quite accurate. In fact, it was just as accurate as the American military rifle being used at the time, the M14. Actually, the Mannlicher Carcano at that time was still being used by Italian NATO rifle team in competition. That particular site needed virtually no adjustment in less than 200 yards. So,
I mean, so you've got yours there with them. I've got my Warren Commission.
yeah,
Um,
I agree. I agree that the Warren Commission guys didn't do it, but I just told you that they did do it eventually afterwards.
this is after sighting the rifle
Uh,
with three metal shields. Commissions 576, 577, and 578.
they actually said that the way that the rifle was sighted when Oswald had it actually gave him an advantage. It was it
So,
was it was sighted slightly higher. I don't know much about guns, but like I said, it was sighted slightly higher so he could aim and hit the way the target was moving. It was for basically a stationary target. It was just moving away from him straight ahead.
well, I mean, 11 miles an hour, that's not a stationary target.
No, but it's still move. It's still straight in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a straight shot,
It's I'm
but it's
saying
still a moving target.
no, it is a moving target.
I know that I couldn't have made that shot.
I think you could have.
I don't think I could have. I know I couldn't have.
And like you said, I mean, he qualified as a 220, a sharpshooter in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps, who
I'm
spent
not,
their
I'm not sure what 220 means in the Marine Corps. I know what it means in the Army, and
I don't know if it's different. I don't know if it's any
I don't,
different.
I don't think any of them's quite off, or I don't think any of I think all the scoring is quite the same. They just use it to qualify as a sharpshooter in the Army. Meant you only had to hit 29 out of 40 targets, and most of these was from 200 yards or less.
I mean, he was going up to 200 to 300 to 400 all the way up to 500 yards in the Marines. A sharpshooter.
I don't know how far
I
I don't know how far
that's what
I'm not good.
that's what he was doing. I mean,
Now also going
the
by,
guy was a good shot. Not only that, was he was very, very,
well,
very.
he was not a good shot. I mean, his buddies said he had baggies drawers, and he barely qualified the last time. Now we can bring up the guy too, and we didn't even talk about that last night. Um, the guy from the London trial who testified that he was a bad shot. And the guy was the chef.
Yeah, there was also a guy in the London trial that testified that he did the shots and did it.
That the guy that testified that what now?
Some rifleman that testified that yeah he recreated the shots and did it no problem.
A guy that was in with him. I'm saying I'm going by what the War Commission has here. I'm going by what his last score is, and there is no evidence that Oswald had fired a rifle from the time that
Okay,
he got out of the Marine Corps.
all right. I know that now. So you're going with the paraffin?
So the next thing I'd like to bring up is there was no
Oh,
is Oswald.
hold on. Let me actually just point out that we have to realize that Oswald was very familiar with that rifle.
Yes.
His wife testified that he would be on his porch, dry firing that rifle over and over and over
Mhm.
again. And
Yeah.
there's good accusation that he actually tried to assassinate. What's his name?
General Walker.
Yeah. Now we don't have to get
Yeah.
into that. That's not part of this, but
The rebuttal I would have for that right there is okay, he couldn't hit a sitting target in a chair, but he got off three shots at the president and
well,
one struck him in the head.
it nicked the windowsill. But what all I'm trying to say is, if that is true, he has intent to kill people. That's
If
what.
that was true.
Yeah,
Okay. So I guess we'll leave it right there
yeah. We're
and
not
let
gonna
our
we're not gonna touch Walker. But I'm just
okay.
saying.
All right, so is there anything else about the shooting that you'd like to bring up? Because I think
No, no. You can go ahead.
all right. So the day of November 22nd, and they gave Oswald a paraffin test. His hands tested positive for
Okay.
nitrates, which is unusual because he had been handling boxes all day. And it's not odd for somebody to test positive. You could handle a deck of playing cards in those days and you would get a positive paraffin test. I would like to
It
point out
is also indicative of firing a weapon.
it could be a false positive. But the next thing is Oswald, they did one on a casting on his right cheek where his it would have been on the case of the
Yeah.
barrel. He tested negative for nitrates on
Right.
his cheek. So there's no way he could have fired that rifle if he tested negative for nitrates on his cheek. The next one was I'd like to bring out is FBI agent Sheldon who got to investigating this. The gun went to Dallas that night and arrived at the FBI laboratory at midnight on November 22nd, 1963. And I have an FBI affidavit here that's dated November 11th, 1923, or excuse me, November the 11th, 23 of 63. No latent prints of value were developed on Oswald's revolver, rifle, the cartridge casings, the unidentified shells, the Carson's clips of the rifle, inner part of the rifle. There were no latent prints. All the latent prints that were found were too fragmented to obtain any value. So, in other words, it went to the FBI, and the FBI
Where
didn't
are
find
those?
anything.
Where are those latent prints that were obtained though? Are you talking about the ones that were underneath the stock? Like if you were to take apart the rifle.
Yeah, there was nothing on the right. It went to the FBI. They didn't find a thing on. There was no print. Oswald was not on the rifle. Then suddenly Monday it comes back to Dallas and they've got a print.
Because
And they,
Lieutenant Day in Dallas, who was doing the fingerprints, pulled that latent print off of that where stock where you would take the rifle apart. I think it was a palm print, right? He
it was a
lifted it so
partial latent.
he lifted it so well that when it went to the FBI, they didn't have it. So when they brought it back, Lieutenant Day showed them what he had. So therefore, that clears up why when it came back, they had that print.
There was a report in the Dallas Fort Worth News of FBI agents that went to the funeral home. And when they interviewed the director of Milner Funeral Home, he said, yes, that's true. He said they came in there with an ink kit, put the rifle on his hand, and it took them almost till they buried him to be able to get the ink off Oswald's dead hands.
See, I did. This is like I said last night. I did. I don't know. I didn't know that. I didn't. To be fair, I didn't jump into any studying or looking into anything to, strengthen my argument tonight.
Okay. Um,
I
so
did,
that's my thing with
that's
the,
definitely news to me.
okay. Um, so I think I hit on everything there. I mean, I don't think he fired the rifle. You've got what you've got with Dallas. I'm going with what the FBI says, and with the nitrate negative test on the cheek.
Okay, we know that he owned the rifle, right?
Yes,
We know that he brought a long package into the building that day, right?
yes,
We know that his rifle was found in the building that day, right?
yes. The first report though was that there was a German Mauser that was found.
It's a bolt action rifle. You can Google it, please. It looks almost identical. And it was not uncommon for people to call bolt action rifles Mausers at the time. A Mannlicher
Well,
Carcano was a rare gun to see in America.
okay.
Now
Anything
I
else?
think no, I think right now is where you jumped into the Houston Street.
Yeah, that was the one thing too that I forgot to touch on. Okay, so he shoots him allegedly.
So, okay, the motorcade turns from Maine to Houston,
Hmm.
and your argument
So
is all right. Go ahead.
why don't you shoot him coming up Houston? That's the easiest shot for a lone assassin in the book depository. But no, apparently he builds. There's the sniper's nest, which nobody sees him build. That's there, and he waits from the car turns to Houston on him. Houston's the easiest shot. Even if you miss the first shot and the car accelerates, you still got time for a second and third shot as the car gets closer. Why do you wait? The only way to wait is to get him in a triangulated crossfire.
That would make sense on a conspiracy level, but it would also make sense that he didn't want all those eyes facing him with his rifle sticking out the window right at them.
Well,
Also, when he built his sniper's nest, it's not uncommon for Oswald to be handling boxes. I mean, that's all he did for work anyway.
yeah, it is.
But obviously, he didn't shoot Kennedy from Houston Street because he didn't. All the Secret Service and everybody the entire motorcade was facing him.
But you're talking about something as soon as you come out there, he's only got to bring the rifle out for what you said, a couple seconds.
But we're talking about a guy that didn't want to get caught. He obviously did not want to get caught.
Well, I mean, we'll get into that later. It's thanks. I mean, to me, the way this case set up, I mean, the guy, if somebody wanted to get caught.
Well, yeah, but that's something we're going to have to get into later. But as of right now, he did not shoot from Houston Street because he did not want to get caught.
Okay,
When
so
they turn onto Elm and you say that he was firing through heavy foliage, that's why the first shot missed. That's why the first shot missed. Second and third shot, which I think there was only three, and the majority of people think there was only three. Uh, the second and third shot were not blocked by any foliage or anything like that.
the second, third shot was not blocked. No, it was not. But why do you fire the first shot when you can't see anything?
I think if I had to guess, I would say he had Kennedy as close as possible at the time. He tried to get that first shot off, maybe nervous, maybe who knows what it was. He popped it off, he missed, and then he probably said to himself, all right, get your shit together. Sat, adjusted himself, and fired the second and third shot and succeeded.
Okay. Um, I believe the first shot missed the car.
Yep, it did.
Um, because in frame 161, you can see Kennedy stops waving as he hears something.
Yes, sir.
Now, where we start to diverge is I think the second shot came from up under the triple underpass,
Okay.
and it was fired by a man named Jack Lawrence.
Okay.
Um, and I didn't really tell you why I believe last night because we kind of went over there. Jack Lawrence was a former airman who worked for the Bolton Ford dealership. He was the guy who claimed that Oswald came in there, that an Oswald came in there and drove off and
Right.
drove around the car. All
Yep.
right, so then this guy, the day before the assassination, borrows one of the cars that was from the dealership.
Right.
He doesn't show up to work on the 22nd. He
Okay.
shows up nervous, muddy clothes all over. And by the way, the car that he had borrowed was found in the Knoll area in the parking lot there the next day. He shows up to work, mud up to his knees, goes in and immediately throws up, and was actually acting so nervous that he was reported to the Dallas police who interviewed him. I cannot find any records of that interview, but I know he was. So there's my first shot.
Okay.
Second,
So you're saying this guy fired from underneath the underpass and nobody
underneath
saw
the
him.
triple underpass.
Nobody saw this guy firing a rifle. Wide open underneath the underpass.
No.
Okay. And you're also
And I don't know
saying,
which part. I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, what were you gonna say?
Um, After the first one, the first shot that was fired, people's attention was drawn to other areas then.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so because of that, you think nobody would have noticed a man with a rifle standing there shooting.
I could go one of these things and say that, oh, it came from the drain pipe, but I don't believe
No, I
that.
know you
No, I
don't. I
believe
know you don't.
believe that he was hidden somewhere up under the underpass. Where, I don't know.
Okay, so nobody saw this, and then you're claiming that he because he went home and he was nervous and throwing up and dirty or whatever you're saying, that indicates that he was part of the assassination, part of a conspiracy.
Well, I think it's odd that he got a car for the dealership, and that car was found in the uh, railroad yard behind the wooden fence, and he called in that day. So that's my second shooter.
he may have wanted to see the motorcade, and maybe he was nervous that he seen the president get his head split open. Who knows?
Okay. Um,
Go on.
the third shot came from the Daltex building. More than likely, that was fired by Roscoe White.
All
Um,
right.
Roscoe White was hired. I find this. I think he was one of these pawns that was brought in. Roscoe White was hired by the Dallas police in September of 1963,
Yeah.
and then fired in December of 1963.
Mhm.
Um, his kids even claimed that he was involved in it. Whether that's somebody trying to make money,
Yeah.
I don't know. But
You
that's
see, at
my
least you
second
admit.
shooting.
I like that you admit these things. That's solid.
You've got to go where it's coming from. But what I'm going with there is Kennedy's first reaction was to grab his throat, correct? Well, if he was hit in the back, how come he didn't lunge or move his arm around? That would have been the first place the pain receptors would have clicked is in the back, not grabbing for the throat.
I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure of that. And we know like I said last night, we know that something exited his neck because his tie and his button were blasted out.
Well, I mean, I guess we'll get into that when we get into Parkland, but Parkland doctors, said it was a wound of entry, but I mean, that's another one. I mean, I'm sorry. So this bullet, supposedly according to official story, hits him in the back, tears through his body, and exits his neck, and he doesn't lunge for move his arm around, turn, twist. He just grabs his throat.
He
Just
he may have had a hard time turning and twisting with that back brace. Who knows? But he did grab for his neck.
I'll go along with that because he had that back brace, but he didn't move the arm around. He didn't turn. He didn't. I mean, if it wasn't for the back brace, he probably wouldn't have been shot anyway, and he wouldn't have been able to get. I
Yeah,
mean,
I agree. I agree with that for sure.
so the second
Um,
shot,
I think he grabs for his neck because I mean, if I were to be shot in the back and it exited through my neck, I think my reaction would be to my neck. Do you,
well,
do you
I
not?
think it would be. I think it'd be towards your back because that's the first place you would have been hit. That's where your pain receptors would have reacted first.
I mean, it's all happened in a split second. It's not like it hit the back and then 5 seconds later it exits the neck. This is just blast.
I'd know that, but I'm saying the first thing you would have felt was the back. I don't even know if you'd have felt the throat. I don't even know if you'd have felt the exit wound. I mean, I don't know. I've never been shot, so I really
Or
can't.
the other way around. Would you have not have felt the back and just felt the throat?
I think
I
his
mean,
reaction.
you gotta think. His breathing must have changed. His breathing must have changed. Whether or
I
not,
think when it exited his throat, or when it entered his throat, when his movements was a natural reaction of somebody getting hit in the throat.
yeah. But whether or not
That's what.
it cracked his windpipe or not, it would have affected his breathing and it would have affected his whole speech and everything. So
And I
you,
think evidence of this too is the hole in the windshield.
a hole in the windshield was clearly from a fragment of a bullet on the inside.
See, now you're running out of bullets then, which I guess
Oh
we'll
no
get
no no
into
no no no! I'm
in
not.
a minute.
I'm talking about a fragment from the headshot.
Okay, we've
I'm
got
not
that in
talking.
here.
I'm not talking about a fragment from CE 399.
We'll get into the lead here soon, because I mean, and I guess when we get into C399. All right, so my fourth shot has it's probably coming from the second floor. And it may be the sixth. I'm not going to say this, but it's
Oh yeah,
coming
hold
back from
on,
the
hold
book.
on. Wait. Hold on. So Roscoe White shoots Kennedy in the back. What the hell type
Yes.
of weapon is he using? A low-powered rifle? Because it's not going through Kennedy. It's just lodging into his back.
Well, according to, and I forget which doctor it was, and I'll have to save this for Bethesda, but I remember him stating that um, when they were autopsying Kennedy, he could feel the wound at the end of his finger.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Hey, what's up, man?
All right, as long as you can jump in that quick, I think we should be all right.
Okay.
Where are we?
So
Where are
yeah,
we at
my
on time?
next one
Where are we
is
at on time?
let's see, we've been going for about I don't know, 25
Okay.
minutes. All right, so yeah, what I was saying was they never autopsied the track of the bullet wound. So that's an easy explanation there. The rifle he was shooting, I don't know what he was using.
I
Um,
mean, an assassin wouldn't use a low-powered rifle. Assassin would use a rifle that would blast straight through Kennedy. I mean, they're trying to kill him. They're not trying to wound him.
hmm Like I said, we'll get into that when we get into Bethesda. Um,
Okay.
I'm saying the bullet hit him in the back and it didn't exit. Um, the
Okay. So so
fourth
so so far
shot,
we got two hired assassins failing,
yes.
failing.
Well, I wouldn't say felling. I mean, one hit him in the throat, one hit him in the back.
Okay.
Your fourth shot was from the school book depository. It could have been by the second Oswald that was arrested that day. We'll get into that later. Um, or a Latino, because there was a Latino that was reported leaving the Texas School Book Depository that supposedly got in Jack Ruby's car. Yeah, and this is another witness that, I don't know if some of these people are making stuff up or not. And then my final shot was from, I'm sorry?
So you're saying someone shot from the second floor of the depository?
Yeah, and I'm basing that based mainly on, which I probably should do more, but probably by from what Dr. Wecht said in the London trial and just the trajectory of the bullet, and we'll get into that when we get into C399. But I think it's probably came from the second floor
Okay.
of the school book
But
story.
second floor, nobody sees this guy. Nobody sees anybody with a rifle on the second floor of the depository. President's just got shot. No one sees this guy leave. No rifle is found, so obviously he left with his rifle. This was never seen. So this guy just magically appears and disappears, right?
For the most part, yeah, it would have been hard to get out of that second floor and get into an awaiting car. By that time, chaos has disappeared. I don't know how exactly they would have got, the weapon out, but it's not hard to time these shots. It could have been done at a time using a
I agree.
looking down
I
and using
agree.
a watch or using a preset spot.
I totally
Um,
agree. If it was a conspiracy, yeah, you're right.
and the fifth shot came from behind the fence,
Okay. Now
and it was
this is the
probably
headshot, right?
the headshot. And I said this last night. I don't like going all in on it. There's a strong possibility it could have been Tippett if you ever go back and look at the Badge Man pictures and then look at them redone. The hairline's the same, everything there. And then, when the people rushed up the knoll, what did they encounter? They encountered nothing but police officers. That's easy to explain. Cop pulls off the shot, pops the trunk, throws a rifle in there. You know, hey, what'd you see? Nothing. Keep looking. Chief, and we'll get that in a minute with our witnesses. I mean, because
Why?
Chief Curry,
What makes you?
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask, what makes you think it was Tippett?
I don't want to say, I mentioned that, I don't want to go
No,
all
you
in
don't have to
on
go.
it,
You don't have to go
but just
deep into it. I just don't understand why you think Tippett would be involved in this.
well, I mean, I'll get into more of Tippett's involvement when we get into Tippett.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying that the Badge Man picture resembles a strong resemblance of J.D. Tippett. Um,
I don't see. I think that picture with the alleged badge man in it. I think we can make out many images. It's a horrible picture. First of all. Second of all, I just don't. When they do the drawing over where they say there's the figure, it looks like a cartoon. I mean, It's irrelevant to me.
But you do admit there is something in that photo.
I don't admit that. I think there's nothing in that photo.
You don't see a figure in that
Absolutely
photo.
not.
Okay. Well, I would like to challenge all the viewers to
Yeah.
go out and look at this
I
picture
wish I wish we
yourself.
could
You
bring
can
it
argue.
up. I wish we had a way to do that stuff.
Yeah, I really do. I wish I could figure out how to do it. I mean, there's got to be a way. I mean,
There
people do it all
isn't.
the time. Like,
We're not of the age of technology.
no, these damn millennials. Okay, so
You with your country accent, that's hilarious. Goddamn,
wait till I get about 4
goddamn
years old.
millennials.
Goddamn millennials. All right, now out of the witnesses that day.
Hold on. I'd like to point out that the grassy knoll, it's an absurd spot to put a sniper. Um,
Why so?
the con-
Kennedy's
if
motorcade's on
the
a
conspiracy,
flat, low trajectory.
huh?
Kennedy's motorcade's on a flat, low trajectory.
Check it out though. If conspirators wanted,
Good place.
if they wanted to frame Oswald, they wouldn't have him fire. They would have these guys fire from the same angle that Oswald was firing from. So the ballistics would
Well,
show that it was Oswald. They would all shoot from the same direction with the same weapon. They wouldn't use different weapons. The more shooters, the higher the likelihood of getting caught. I mean, you got five shooters. You got five shooters here.
5 shooters, yes. And I didn't say they was all using the same ammunition. I believe the one that hit Kennedy in the head was a full metal jacket, and some of the other was needle nose
Right,
ammunition
and what
because
I'm
of the
saying is,
explosion.
if they're trying to frame Oswald, they would use all the same ammunition. They would use all his weapons, all his ammunition.
We'll get into the ammunition when we get into C-399 because the head explodes, but the C-399 doesn't explode.
Um,
But anyway,
and again, no witnesses saw anybody with a firearm at the knoll.
well, uh,
The
Lee Bow. I
only
mean,
thing that you have with somebody with a firearm, not a flash of light, nothing like that, with a firearm, is that picture.
mhm. Well, as of the witnesses there, and I'll touch on that in just a second. There was 600 witnesses in Dealey Plaza. Only 200 of them was interviewed. Even after the FBI found out, or excuse me, the commission found out who some of these people are, they still wasn't um, interviewed. That's in volume 15, page 555 of the Warren Commission. So out of 200 people, there was roughly 40 that gave um, that said a shot came from another direction. Victoria Adams, Danny Gravepeel, I think that's it. Uh, I didn't write this name, or I can't remember right. Jane Berry, Charles Brim, Oshunus Bell, Faye and John Chisholm, Harold Elkins, Ronnie Fisher, Bill Frazier, Dorothy Garner, Gene Hill, S.M. Holland, Ed Johnson, Dolores
Hold on,
Canas, Paul Landis.
If let's
Mhm.
stick with the knoll for a second. If this shot came from the knoll, it would be traveling from the president's front right to his rear left.
Yes.
Nothing happens to the back of his of his head.
I bel well, I believe that's when. Are we going to close out with the null shot or?
Yeah, you're right. I keep forgetting that. I'm sorry. Fuck.
No.
Witnesses.
All right.
Okay, sorry.
Paul Landis, Bill Moreland, Austin Miller, A.J. McMillan, Zook Mooney, Thomas Murphy, Gene and Bill Newman, uh, Ken O'Donnell, David Powers, Robert Rowland, Frank Riley, Arnold Rowland, Edgar and Joe Smith, James Tague, Roy Truly, Harry Weatherford, Seymour Wiseman, Otis Williams,
Hmm.
Mary Woodard, Abraham Zapruder. There was also some people that was not talked to. Chief Curry, when he heard a the shot. He looked over his right shoulder, thought the report came from the knoll, ordered people to get up there. In later interviews in live, Curry said there was a shot. He believed the shot came from the knoll. Have you seen these interviews?
Yeah, I have, and that's a good case to prove that Oswald made the shot because Curry looked over his right shoulder behind him because he was the lead car, so he was past the knoll at the time. He looked over his right shoulder. He may
Hmm.
have thought it was
So he
he
was
may have
upset.
thought it was the
That
knoll.
is
I'm not
so.
saying. I mean, it's not like he saw somebody at the knoll with the firearm. He's guessing it's the knoll.
But Chief had seen the interviews where Chief Curry has said that he believes there was a shot from the
I have,
knoll,
yeah.
correct? Okay. Another one I would like to say is George Hickey, who was an agent, uh, secret, what kind of agent? Secret Service agent that was traveling two cars behind. He said the shot came in a different direction. Now, in order to save time, I'm just going to touch on my two best witnesses.
Okay, well, yeah,
Um,
I just
Lee,
the ones that I have that you named is Arnold Rowland is one of them. He
mhm,
claims to have seen two
yeah,
men on the sixth floor, one of them black. Okay, the
hmm
problem with that is immediately after the shooting, he told the FBI he only saw one, not black. He lied about women and children on the underpass. There were none. He lied about the crowd laughing after the first shot. No report of that ever happened. He lied that 50 Dallas Police Department officers ran up the knoll. Only two did. His wife actually testified to the Warren Commission that, quote unquote, he lies and exaggerates.
Okay, so you impeached, one out of 40. I'm not saying all of them was correct,
And as for
or
the
all of
other
them.
40, I'd like to bring up.
40. So
Um,
wait a second. What 40 out of 200? First of all, 40 out of 200. Now you'd have to think just by mathematics, if there were 600 there, there would probably been 120 people heard a shot from the null. Also, a lot of these people that I named were standing up under the Texas School Book Depository. Bill Frazier,
mhm,
Roy Truly, Victoria Adams. I mean, they're standing up under there.
right.
Um, um, so in order to save time, and because basically all of us did the same thing, I'm just going to use two people. Um, and I'm just going to sum it up as some Holland's second. But Lee Bauer said at the time of the shooting, something happened out of the ordinary that caught his attention,
Yeah.
that something had taken place there. A flash of light.
Yep.
S.M. Holland said that after the first report, I think he heard three reports that came right on top of each
SM
other.
Holden,
One of them
SM
came
Holden, standing on the triple underpass with several other workers and a Dallas police officer, said he saw a puff of smoke in the knoll behind
about
the
10 to 12 feet from
behind
the
the
report.
fence. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is, in his testimony, he said Jackie climbed into the back seat to help her husband. She was in the same seat with her husband. He said the Secret Service agent in JFK limo stood up with a machine gun. That never happened. He also said he wasn't sure if the puff of smoke was from gunfire. No one else standing there saw such a thing that was standing with him. So, and we all know modern ammunition does not leave smoke. It's smokeless. Seldom ever creates a wisp of smoke. Plus, the wind that day would not
Yeah,
allow for smoke to rise. Furthermore,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I think what S.M. Holland saw, as far as the machine gun, was the guy about three cars back who raised out one of the rifles, or maybe it was two cars back. I can't remember because there was a
That
book
that
that was
that
called
that is that. No, we do know that someone did stand up with a machine gun in a different vehicle.
in a different vehicle. So I'm not surprised that S.M. Holland may have gotten a few of those things, you know,
Okay, what about Jackie?
because Jackie
What
was
about
trying to
Jackie
help her
climbing
husband.
into the back seat to help her husband? They were
She was trying to help him. I think from where he was looking at, he was probably, I don't know, confused, off, but I mean, she was trying to help him.
what about
As far as
yeah.
as far as the puff of smoke, yes, modern ammunition does not make that. That was made by powders. I think what S.M. Holland actually saw was the same thing that Lee Bowers did. He seen the flash of light from the report. after it had been drawn in his direction because SM Holland took off to the knoll.
Mm-hmm.
And he pointed out where he thought these people were standing.
Okay. Again, he seen nobody with a weapon. He seen nobody shooting a weapon.
Well, from where they would have been standing in those trees and him at the underpass, it would have been really hard for him to make somebody out.
Okay, I'm just saying he did not see anybody with a weapon.
No.
Yep. Um, do you want to go with the?
But why did all those people charge the doll?
What's that?
Why did all those people charge the doll? Why did two motorcycles run up the doll?
I think that people follow the police officers of the know.
Then why did the cops go up the knoll?
Cops went up the know because natural reaction. Some went into the building. Some went up the know. It was all in that area that the shots came from.
So then you agree those police officers thought they heard shots come from the knoll?
I think they were doing their best police work. Some went in the building, some went around the building, some went up the side of the building on the north.
I'm not I'm talking about the two that gunned their motorcycles up the embankment and jumped over the fence.
Yeah, but I'm sure people were saying that shots came from over there. Shots came from over there. Right?
So all these 40 people were wrong.
Not wrong. We now is where we bring into the echo chamber of Dealey Plaza. We have to.
So
This is
okay,
this
go
is
ahead.
huge because we have multiple testimonies from multiple credible people saying Zapruder included that the reverberations and the echoes, you could not tell where these shots were coming from.
That's okay. That's so all 40 of these people heard echoes that they thought led them to the knoll. I mean, I could give you that if
All
it was
40
like
people heard a
two
shot.
or three. What's it?
All
Huh?
40 people heard a shot, but they also heard the echoes of the shot, which made it difficult to locate where the shot came from. I mean, Secret Service agents were saying this about the
I mean,
echoes.
I could probably give you that if it was a few people standing in one area, but when you've got people that's all through Dealey Plaza, I mean, even standing up under the Texas School Book Depository to the side street there, I can't think of the one off the top of my
Okay.
head. Up and down both sides of the street, all of these people said a shot came from there.
Okay.
I can't buy that you can say that all 40 of these people were
And what
mistaken.
what about the load of people that said that the shots came from the depository?
I believe there was a shot fired from the depository.
Okay. So, okay, now what about real witnesses that actually seen 22-year-old James Worrell standing in front of the Texas Depository with his back to the building, threw his head back, looked straight up, and sees 6 inches of a barrel with stock sticking out of the window, high overhead in the southeasternmost window of the building. Right before the second shot, he glances up again and sees the barrel fire again. Amos Eunice, think the first shot was a backfire. Starts looking around the depository, up high in the southeasternmost corner, sixth floor window. He sees a pipe look like object sticking out of the window. He also sees the shooter in that window fire the second shot, and immediately,
Was they
huh?
wasn't he deaf and mute?
No. That was the hell was his name? The deaf mute guy was Ed Hoffman.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we have Edward Roberts and Ronald Fisher, both standing together. Saw a man in the sixth floor window, southeastmost window again. And they were standing on the side of the building, staring down Elm Street. The man later matched what Oswald was wearing in his description. They also saw the stack of boxes of the sniper's nest. Robert Jackson of the Dallas Times Herald. 1 block behind JFK in the motorcade, glanced up to the depository during the shots, 25 feet away, saw black men in one window, then looked directly above them and noticed a rifle being drawn in. He also saw the concealing stack of boxes in the window. Malcolm Couch, cameraman riding with that guy, 25 feet away, heard Jackson yell to look up there. There's a rifle. This man saw the rifle as well, being withdrawn. He also saw the concealing stack of boxes. James Crawford at the depository, standing on the corner of Elm Street in Houston, across from the depository. During the third shot, he looked up and saw movement in the sixth floor southeasternmost window. Someone wearing a white shirt, which fits what Oswald was wearing. He tells the cops to search the sixth floor. Now we get my main guy, Howard Brennan.
Oh, good. Bring up Howard Brennan.
Howard Brennan. Howard Brennan
Good old Howard Brennan.
sitting on the low stone wall of the reflecting pool. After the first shot, he also thinks it's a motor backfire, like most people. He saw a suspicious man in the sixth floor southeasternmost window of the depository. Now, after the backfire sound, he looks back up and sees the man aiming with the rifle straight down Elm Street towards the president's limo. He sees him from the waist up with great clarity. He's bracing the rifle against his left shoulder against the window jamb. His motions are deliberate and without panic. Seconds later, he fires again. He tries to look at JFK, but his view is blocked. He sees the guy aim, takes his time, and fire the final fatal headshot. The man draws his rifle back into the window and calmly stares down Elm Street to make sure he hit his mark. Then he disappears back into the shadows. Howard Brennan claims he wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I couldn't utter a sound. As he aimed the weapon, I wanted to pray to God for him to miss the shot.
Howard Brennan. So Howard Brennan watched every bit of this, correct?
Yeah.
Howard Brennan seen him from the waist up, correct?
Oh, despite his reluctance to get involved in the case, he did report to police right after that. That he saw, he gave the description, and that's what went out at 12:45 over the radio.
Okay. So Howard Brennan saw him from the waist up, correct?
Yeah.
And he saw him fire the rifle.
Yep.
So he gave an accurate description of somebody that was kneeling behind boxes from 6 floors down.
Mm-hmm.
He could tell his height, his weight, his hair color, his eye color, the man's age, what kind of clothes he was on, from 6 floors down, behind boxes, kneeling. Nobody can do that. Nobody can tell somebody's height and weight when they're kneeling.
You gotta remember that this windowsill isn't naturally like 4 feet high. This windowsill is only about a foot high.
Okay, but he had boxes stacked in front of him.
Not to the corner. He had them in the middle. So where he was braced against the window, you could see him.
Well, he's braced against a window and he does it, he's not firing from a prone position. Is that what you're telling me? He's just holding the rifle?
No, he's braced against the window jamb.
He's got the rifle braced against the window jamb and steadied. Because I can tell you, we never fired like that. And if he's a trained Marine, he's not going to be leaned up against something like that. He's going to be in a prone position firing.
He's bracing the rifle against his left shoulder, like you would shoot a rifle. And he's also got his body against the window jamb, as his rifle is leaning against the sniper's nest rifle lean, whatever you would call that thing.
That's not how you shoot. You shoot on your elbow in a prone position. Any trained marksman would know that.
He did have his elbow on the windowsill.
I thought it was only a foot high.
Or he had his elbow on the box. I don't know where he had his elbow.
Oh, you just told me that they didn't have the boxes in front of him.
I didn't say they didn't have the box in front of him.
All right, so well, which one is it? Is he against the window, or is he in a prone position on top of the boxes, or is he down on a 1 foot windowsill?
You seen the movie JFK?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You see the way the actor portrays Oswald in that window? That's exactly what I mean. I just can't explain it. That's a hard thing to explain.
I mean, he's your witness. So, I mean, and you said it was a foot high and windowsill. So, if there was boxes in front of him, how was he braced against a windowsill? If it's only one, and you're telling me he gives an accurate description from 6 stories down. I'd also like to point out that at first he picked out the wrong window,
No, he
and he
he,
initially
he
refused to.
doesn't identify the shooter while he's shooting. He identifies the shooter after the shooter draws back for a second, watches his work, makes sure he hits his mark. That's when he identifies the clothes, the look, the accurate.
So now you're telling me he's even further away from the window after he draws back, and he still makes that kind of
Yeah.
ID. Come on. You're not going to make that kind of ID from 6 floors down with somebody who's not entirely up against a window. Mm-mm. You're not going to be able to tell out their height, their weight. I don't buy that. He also initially refused to ID Oswald at the
In
lineup
fear of his family.
in fear of his family. That's what he said. Okay.
I mean, he didn't
Um,
even want to initially tell the police about what he saw. I mean, why would
and why
why
was
why would
that?
this guy lie? Why do you think this guy would lie?
I don't think he was lying. I think he was mistaken.
He was mistaken.
I mean, you can't see all that from 6 floors
So
down. He also didn't have his glasses on.
were all these other people mistaken that seen rifles sticking out of that window?
Well, I didn't. I never said there wasn't a rifle sticking out of there. I'm just telling you that there was. I never said there was not a shot fired from the 6th floor. I'm telling you that Howard Brennan could not have made that description from 6 floors down.
Okay, so you do agree that someone was shooting from the southeasternmost window of the sixth floor.
Yes.
Okay, and you just for some reason you don't think that Howard Brennan could identify this guy. Broad daylight.
No, absolutely not. Not from 6 floors down. And then, like I said, I mean, which one is it? Is he braced against the window? Is he braced on the boxes or on a 1.5 foot window sill? I mean, we can't have it all three ways now.
We know how he was. We know how he was braced. I can't explain it in words. I mean, can you explain it in words? We,
I can explain it that I can say that Howard Brennan could not see all of that.
okay, that's what you think. I mean,
All right.
I'm going by what my witness said.
Okay, and I went with mine. So,
And I
so
think
do
if he
we?
was lying, I don't think he would be hesitant to tell anybody. I don't think he would be hesitant to identify anybody in a lineup. I think if he was lying, he would just go right at it and say, "Yeah, I saw this, I saw this, I saw this," and in the lineup, that's definitely him. No, this guy was in fear of his life. He saw somebody murder the president in broad daylight and split his head open and put his brain matter all over the road.
Yeah. I don't buy. I mean, I don't buy you can make that kind of.
You're just arguing the fact that he couldn't identify.
Right. I'm saying he couldn't identify that person. There's no way he could have gave a correct
Could he have
identification.
seen anything?
Yeah, I'm not saying he couldn't have seen a rifle sticking out of there. I'm not saying these people did not see
No,
that,
no,
but
no. Just
let's
Howard
go
Brennan.
back.
Just Howard Brennan. Could he at least have seen somebody?
He may have could have seen a silhouette.
Silhouette?
Yeah, a silhouette. I'm not saying he didn't see anybody up there. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I don't buy a story.
Well, you buy the rest of his story. You just don't buy his idea of the shooter.
No, I don't buy his idea of the shooter at all.
Okay, but you do agree that he could have seen somebody up in that window.
Yes.
Okay, and you do agree that other people saw rifles sticking out of that window and shooting.
I've, I've always said I believe there was a shot that came from there.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Okay. So do we go into C399 now?
Yeah, we can. Let me just get my shit out. Well, where are we at on time, buddy?
Let's see here. We've been going for almost an hour.
What do you want to do?
I say just keep going.
Keep on?
Yeah, we've been in it this long.
Okay.
I mean, 'cause I guess that long to go through CE 399 now. And I mean, I don't know. It's up to you, man. What do you think?
No, we're good. Go ahead.
All right. Now, according to
I
the
think
official
I think we're
story,
flowing a lot better than last night anyway. That's why.
yeah, I do too. So, according to the official story, the first shot missed the car completely, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Um, the second shot, it's Kennedy in the back, exits his neck, hits Connolly in the rear of his armpit, exits
Almost
below his
exits
neck.
the upper part of his chest, not necessarily his neck.
Well,
We're talking about down in here.
there was no wound there in the autopsy photos.
Here. Yes, there was.
You're to,
We're not talking about
well,
Adam's
this is your
apple.
this is your throat. Okay,
Okay.
it's somewhere in this area, right?
Okay, now draw a line from my finger to my back.
Okay, it hit him supposedly right at the right shoulder blade.
Right?
So if it would have hit him right there, it should have on a downward slope. A bullet traveling downward strikes him in the back. It should have exited around his nipple, the way the bullet exited Connolly when it hit him in the back.
Mm-mm. Conley's
So,
wound in the back was lower than Kennedy's back wound.
okay, what you're telling me? All right. So, did the bullet hit him in the right shoulder, right below the right shoulder blade?
Below it, no.
Or where did the bullet in the back strike him?
I would say I can't. I'm all casted up, but I would say uh, somewhere near the mid to top shoulder blade.
Okay, so
But
then if
no,
it hits it right
no
there,
bone, all flesh wound.
okay, so then if that's the case, so this bullet hits him there, then it has to turn to exit through his
It
throat.
doesn't.
Well, if you draw a straight line from the right there, it's going to come out somewhere right here. It's not going to come out right
That
here.
you're talking if he's sitting perfectly straight. He wasn't. He had his hands up. He was turning. He was waving. He stopped waving. He was turning. He was turning. Who knows what angle he was at? But he was at an angle.
Okay. Bend over, still whatever angle you want to do it, however you want to turn. I don't care. You can do it. Draw a line. It should still exit from the same place right around here if it hit him right there. Now, the bullet would have had to turn in his body,
Uh,
exit out his
Wait,
throat,
well,
and then people want to say the turning in midair is not true because of the jump seat. Yes, it would have had to have turned in midair because it exited from his because it would have turned left in his body, exited his throat, then turned right to strike Conley in the back.
this is something that like you said we have to request viewers to check it out on YouTube.
Yes,
I mean,
I want you to
because
watch
we
to
cannot explain this.
um, then hits Conley in the
Yep,
back,
at a sideways
goes through,
trajectory because the wound was long.
breaks a rib,
Slightly glances a rib. Slightly glances a rib.
goes out his front, enters his wrist, shatters it,
Shattered.
severs the radius nerve. It is man,
A nerve isn't going to do any damage to a bullet.
but what I'm saying is, and I'll get in that in just a second, but exits his wrist, then turns left
Oh,
and buries itself
doesn't
in the middle
turn
of his
left.
thigh.
His
Now,
arm was positioned right over his leg.
how did the bullet get in his thigh?
Came out of his wrist.
You can see him holding the. In the video, he's holding the Stetson right out here, and how is he still holding on to it when the radial nerve's been shattered?
Actually, the radial nerve was not completely shattered.
He still did enough damage. It shouldn't have. He shouldn't have been able to hold the Stetson.
Maybe it caused him to clench the hat. I don't know. I don't know about the hat. That doesn't concern me. It doesn't. But all I know
Okay.
is that we're talking about a pristine bullet here, and it slightly glances one bone in Conley's chest, slightly glances a rib, then
You just said pristine bullet.
and then and then sideways it shatters his wrist,
Thank you.
lodges
Yes, thank you.
lodges
That's
into his.
previously down.
Now everything's hitting sideways, and every time it hits something, you have to remember it's slowed down from the previous hit.
Hmm. So, for our viewers at home, I would like to get y'all to go look
Yes,
at Commission Exhibit 3E99. Uh, Exhibit 399. They show that bullet fired by 4 comparison bullets.
please,
2 of the bullets were just fired.
please look at the bullet from both perspectives. You have to look at it from the rear. It looks like a thing of toothpaste squeezed out. It's flattened. The bullet is flattened. It's damaged in the front. It's not pristine.
Okay, so they showed the comparison bullets. So they showed this bullet. It is fired through bullets that are fired through copper, or excuse me, through cotton balls, basically. There is more damage to those 2 bullets than to Commission Exhibit 399. Then I want you to look at the 3rd bullet. It's fired through a goat carcass. Look at the deformities on that bullet. And then finally, the 4th bullet. I want you to look at the 4th bullet that's fired through the wrist of human cadaver. I want you to look at all the damage of that bullet. And then I want you to match it up to Commission Exhibit 399. Why was there minimal damage to this bullet? And that was the argument that I had. Ladies and gentlemen, once you look at CE 399 and that you conclude that that bullet could not create all 7 of those wounds, then you have to conclude that there was a 4th shot. And if there was a 4th shot, then by definition, there had to be a conspiracy.
Okay, I'd like to add that if you conclude that that bullet is undamaged, you are delusional.
Look at that bullet compared to the other 2 bullets. Look at the bullet that's fired just into cotton, and then look at the bullet that supposedly entered Kennedy, exited his throat, entered Connolly, damaged a rib, went through him, shattered his wrist, went through his wrist, then went into his thigh. And you tell me if that bullet looks anything like the other 4.
Okay.
And you'll conclude that 399 was most definitely a plant that was put
Okay,
on.
so the plant. I'd like to conclude that if this was a plant, how would they even know to plant this bullet? They don't know if it's still stuck in the guy's body or not. They don't. So if they planted a bullet and then all of a sudden they still find this bullet still stuck in Conley, they planted the wrong. They planted a 4th bullet. They don't
Well,
know. They don't know if this bullet came out or not.
That's not hard to explain away.
Very hard to explain.
No, not really. I mean, because you're going by the assumption now that everybody knew that the story was going to be 3 shots from the depository, but an unpredictable thing occurred that day. Abraham Zapruder's 8mm home movie.
Yeah.
So that's where you got your story. Okay, 3 shots, 3 to the back, and I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to touch on this last night. I'm trying not to hit you with something out of left field, but an FBI affidavit in December of 1963 said there were 3 bullets, one that hit Kennedy, one that hit Connolly, and then one that struck the president. But another unpredictable thing occurred that day. The 4th wounded man, James Tate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Who was nicked while standing down by the triple underpass.
Ricochet. Yeah.
So now you've got 2 bullets that have to remain.
Exactly.
And we know one's the fatal headshot. So 1 bullet has to account for all 7 of those wounds.
You're exactly right.
So,
but I never said 3 bullets did these wounds. I've never claimed that.
Well, you have to.
I said the first bullet missed.
Okay, so and one's the fatal headshot.
Nope. The first one that misses. One that misses is the one that ricocheted and injured James Tate.
Okay, so then the second one is C399.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your third's the headshot.
Yes, sir.
Commission Exhibit 399 has to account for all 7 of those wounds that remain.
Yeah, not
the back wound,
not including the headshot. Yeah.
not including the headshot. There's 7 wounds you got to account
Yep,
for.
I know.
And once you conclude that that bullet could not make all 7 of those wounds, you have to conclude there was a fourth
If you
shot.
can conclude
And by
that, if you
definition, there
conclude
has to
that,
be
if
a
you can
conspiracy.
conclude that without bias, then you're delusional.
I can conclude that easily, and I challenge everybody else to go just look at CE 399 and judge for yourself. And I will stake everything on that exhibit right there. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, just tell me how that bullet, how there's more damage to something fired through just cotton than there is, you know, through skin and bone, organs, tissue.
Bullets do weird shit.
Hmm. Well, the two that's fired through cotton wadding look exactly the same. So
I can't explain what happened with that bullet, but all I know is that the bullet fragments found in that limo go to Oswald's weapon. Striations lead to Oswald's weapon.
you've got a lot of bullet fragments there to account for too, with 2 bullets.
I'm not talking about the magic bullet.
So why did the magic bullet not explode like the headshot did? Both of them hit bone.
Different type.
I mean, you're telling me that the magic bullet, the headshot, it explodes, goes in all these pieces, but the one that goes to his wrist doesn't.
No,
I mean, why does that
no,
not break?
because by the time it gets to his wrist, it has slowed down drastically. It's slowed down through Kennedy's neck. It's
Why did it break apart then?
because it was a flesh wound.
What? Why didn't it start to come apart?
It did.
Why didn't it start to come apart? Okay, what about not the bullet? The bullet didn't start to come apart. Look at
Bullet
the
started to
bullet
come apart when it hit Conley's rib. When it hit him sideways.
when it's okay. Well, there's nothing really missing from the bullet.
There is. There definitely is.
I mean, there was more. There's more ammunition found, or there's more fragments found in the car than what's missing
No,
from the
no, no, no,
bullet.
no. We already went through this last night. I proved to you that that's wrong.
But we did. But the viewers didn't get to see that, so I've tried to be fair with it.
Okay, hold on then.
At least-
All right. A 6.5 millimeter Carcano bullet, average weight 161.2 grains. The magic bullet, quote unquote, that was found on a stretcher weighed 158.6 grains, which means 2.6 grains were lost. Dr. Gregory at Parkland weighed the stretcher bullet and it weighed 158.6 grains, only 1.5 grains missing. So there clearly shows that it was less than what was missing.
Okay. All right. So I was going to give you that chance to bring that up, but again, I will close out with C399 with a plant. Just look at the bullet. Look at the ones fired
They
through
could not have
cotton.
known to plant that bullet. They could not have known.
You will conclude that that bullet is not real. So headshot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Just looking at the Zapruder film, you can tell that.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. 399 real quick. I just want to point out that the planters who had no idea where to plant it, they didn't and couldn't have known the wounds or if it was still lodged in someone's body. They would have exposed them. This would have exposed themselves if they messed this up. They could potentially be planting a fourth bullet because Kennedy and Conley had fragments in them, and we know Oswald fired 3, which the framers would have to stick with in order to frame him. So it would be a really big screw up if they planted that bullet and it was still in somebody's body.
So you're assuming that the planners just said there was 3 bullets. I mean, and they're all going to be accounted for. I mean, you're going by something that they wouldn't have known for months later when they put it together that James Tague was wounded, and he was wounded from one of these
How did
bullets.
they know to plant that bullet?
Well, they had to tie something to Oswald's rifle.
Okay, but how did they know that bullet wasn't still in somebody's body?
Well, again, you're going by the assumption that there's just 3 bullets.
Right.
You know, the planners at that
Even
time wasn't
if
going by
it
that
was
assumption.
conspiracy shooters, how do they know that bullet wasn't still in somebody's body?
Like I said, you're going by the thing that they was going to say there was 3 bullets. Abraham Zapruder's home film is what brought out. Okay, there was more. There was only 3. Or to the story that there was only 3 bullets. The planners wasn't going by. Uh, I mean, you're assuming now that everybody was involved in it, and I'm not saying that.
Okay, well, let's go to the headshot.
All right, so the headshot. Um, I know you love when I do this. Anybody who looks at the Z film can see the moment Kennedy struck. He is struck by a force that is moving, that is coming from the right front of him. It strikes his head with such force, it's like hitting a baseball bat. And you see his head, again, you love under this, go back and to the left, back and to the left, back and to the left. Totally inconsistent with a shot fired from the school book depository.
Yep. That's all? That's all you want to say?
That's all I'm going to open with.
Well, God damn, I have so many notes. Just hang on. All right. All right, the third shot. Here we go.
Well, that's what I call the fifth.
Third shot. If it was fun, huh?
That's what I like to call the fifth. The fifth and fatal hit.
5 shooters. 5 shooters. 90% of people heard 3 shots. 10% heard 4. You got 5.
There's people who heard 4 to 6, but like you said, there's a lot of you know, echoes.
But you argued my reverberations earlier on.
No. I just said that there. I said that all 40 people can't be wrong.
Anyway, let's get to my assassin shooting the headshot. It
Okay.
enters the upper right-hand side of the rear skull and exits on the area just above the brow line and below the right hairline. This causes 1 to 2 massive fragments of scalp to hang open upon the blowout of the exit. Abraham Zapruder said the right front side of his head just blew off. Now, the reason why I say it was fired from the back, first of all, the blood spray goes forward. That's in the Zapruder film. There's no argument about that. Nothing happens to the back of his head. Most of the blood in the limo was on the front seat.
Well,
Was on the front seat, the floor, and the rear seat, as well as brain matter and skull fragments. He moves back and to the left from the missile pressure, exiting the front of the skull and subsequently blowing his head and body backwards with the inclusion of his back brace. 6 by 15 millimeter hole in the rear of his upper portion of his skull. The entrance has beveling on the inside of the skull surface, which is indicative of a entrance wound. The exit beveling on the outside of the skull surface is indicative of an exit wound, which is in the front. A minute missile fragment back to the front. Okay. Coagulation necrosis of the tissue near the entrance wound indicates entrance only. Conclusion. Analyzed bullet fragments found in the limo wound and concluded that all were from only 2 Carcano bullets that were used 100% fired from Oswald's Carcano to the exclusion of all other weapons. My ending would be that the beveling of the entrance wound of the skull, the beveling indicating an entrance wound on the back of the skull, that you can't even argue that. And the beveling on the outside of the front of the skull indicates an exit wound. You can't argue that either. The blood spray, which is Zapruder. Thank God for Abraham Zapruder. The blood spray goes all forward, all of it. Anything that goes backwards is because of the movement of the limo, the downward position of the hill, all that. That's the only reason why Jackie goes and grabs something. That's the only reason why police officers in the motorcycles got soaked with blood. But most of the blood was found in the limo. That limo was covered with blood and brain.
Okay. Motorcycle cops behind the
I just
president
said that.
had
I just said
blood.
that.
Okay, so what did all this stuff do? Did it just pause in midair and wait for him to catch up? Because you said I see an explosion in this proof film. If all this stuff is being blown forward, how is it getting blown back? His scalp. How did his scalp get blown back if it got pushed forward? You just said all of it got pushed
The
forward,
the
blown out.
the
So what?
piece
This
of
stuff was
scalp, the piece of
stopped.
scalp that Jackie retrieved got blown back. Yes, one piece of scalp did get blown back. God, it's an explosion. This is an explosion. This is you're talking about a round object, a skull, with just brain matter in it. When it explodes, it just explodes. It's an explosion. It's like shooting a watermelon.
Right, it was
Pieces
close.
go everywhere, but the blood spray goes forward, and what goes backwards is whatever's left over from the limo passing and whatever's left in the air at the time. That's why.
The blood that was sprayed, the blood that was sprayed on the motorcycle policeman behind him, that blood just stood in midair and waited for those cops to catch
They
up.
were right behind him, driving right into it. It
So,
wasn't
right,
waiting.
so it
It
just,
wasn't waiting for anybody.
well, I mean, if it was blown forward, how did they catch up to it?
They were right behind him.
Okay, but you just said it was all
They're
of it was
driving right
everything was
into
blown
it.
forward.
They're driving.
But if it's all blown forward,
Well,
so
it's not blowing straight. It's not blowing forward as it's blowing up and forward. You see it.
up and
You
forward.
see it in the Zapruder film. I mean,
See, I see an explosion, but I also ain't buying that it's gonna spray back on all these cops like that, and then spray. I
it's
mean,
not all these cops, by
mm,
the way.
well, excuse me, these two police officers that are trailing the motorcade behind them that said
Exactly,
that
right
their
behind,
car
right behind.
was sprayed with blood. So that's
I
from
mean,
it was
I
sprayed
mean,
with
I
blood.
mean, can we really argue what we're seeing in the Zapruder film? Can we really argue that, Chris?
I see an explosion that takes place.
Where does the blood go in the Zapruder film, Chris? Where did we?
There's a huge explosion. There's a huge explosion that takes place at the top of this
Okay,
hill.
and mainly, what direction does that explosion go in? Come on, man.
The explosion's going everywhere. There's some that's going forward. But the explosion is going everywhere. Um, Also, you touched on entry wounds and exit wounds, and this right here will be
Yeah,
more
this is
when
this
we
is
get into
more. I
Parkland.
know, I know. I did touch on that, but
But everybody just go look at the autopsy photos and look at the back of his head. The back of his head is blasted out.
no,
Um,
no. Look at the actual
it's
autopsy
not.
photos. The back of his head is just soaked in blood. That's the picture you're talking about.
The back of his head's not missing.
You're
Yeah.
talking about the actual autopsy photo, right?
Oh,
Right?
but that's for Park. Yeah, that's for Parkland and
It
Bethesda. I know
is.
I'm
It
getting way
is.
too
It
far
is.
ahead of
It
myself.
is. It is.
But
It is.
anyway,
So let's end with: are we really going to argue that in the Zapruder film that blood does not go forward? Are we really going to argue that? You cannot argue that.
I didn't say it didn't go forward. I said there was an explosion that took
Okay.
place, and the stuff went everywhere.
It didn't go mainly which direction did it go though, Chris?
Well, his scalp went backwards.
A piece of it.
A piece of it went
Okay.
backwards. So I mean,
Okay.
so then looks like it went in all directions. Yes, there's a spray forward,
Mainly.
but there's also stuff going out the
Mainly.
other.
Mainly. You know this film just as good as me, Chris.
I mean,
Mainly that
I
blood
would
goes forward,
probably
Chris. I mean, just you gotta just admit that. I mean, you know it does.
in a lot of the explosion, there's blood that's going forward. Yes.
Okay, and it's up in the air,
Yeah, some of it's up in the
which
air.
would cause the motorcycles to get covered as they pass through.
No, I don't see them driving into it. I mean, you're talking about it would be like blood just misting in the
That's
air.
what I think.
I mean, it was just hanging in the air for the cops to drive
No,
through. The
no.
blood doesn't stand in the air.
As everybody was moving, that it was in the air and coming. They were. It wasn't waiting for them to pass through it.
Well, the car had stopped at that
It did
point.
not stop. It did not come to a full stop.
Uh, the car, did, okay, well, the car just about stopped. I mean, the car braked.
Be-
So then you're saying that
because what's the driver's name?
I don't remember.
Ah, shit. Whatever. It doesn't matter. He just turned to look and see. As soon as he seen what was going on, he sped away.
That was after the fatal
Hmm.
headshot. I would like to point out the car braked, so that blood would have had to mist in the air for those motorcycle cops to run it for it to be sprayed on their windshield.
It did mist in the air. It did.
Stuff doesn't mist in the air.
We're talking about a human being's brain completely exploding.
Take a Coke can and
We're not
shake
talking.
it
We're
up
not.
and open.
This is a human brain.
I'm trying. The stuff just doesn't mist in the air. Bone fragments, blood, hair. I mean, it just doesn't mist in the air. It doesn't flow forward and start flowing backwards.
Okay, so you can't have it both ways. You just said that mainly the blood goes.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You can't have it both ways. I
I'm going.
mean,
I'm
the
going
piece
by
of his scalp was going.
like when I say what I believe when if I believe in ghosts, I have to see it to believe it. When I see this Zapruder film, the blood goes forward. There's no doubt about it.
Kennedy's head
Nothing,
goes back into the left.
nothing happens to the back of his head in the film.
Well, well, so, well. I guess we'll get into that in Parkland, Bethesda, but you can definitely see something with the back of his head gone.
Not in
That
the
was the piece of scalp.
not in the Zapruder film.
That was the piece of scalp. Then that was the piece of scalp that's missing from the back of his head.
I did not see anything get blown from the back of his head in the Zapruder film. No way.
All right. Well, you didn't see Jackie going
Yep, I
after
did,
that.
but I seen
Yep.
pieces come from the front of his head.
So then it went forward and then got blown backwards. What you're telling me? That piece of scalp.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, stuff doesn't get blown forward and then get
Why
blown
not? It's
backwards.
an explosion, like you said.
Because if it's going forward, it's going to keep traveling forward. A piece of his scalp's not going to go off, go in the front, and then all of a
If a
sudden,
piece,
it doesn't even
if
work
a
like that.
piece right
To
here,
quote Dr.
if
Weck, stuff like that doesn't even happen in
if the
cartoons, Mike.
if the oh here we go, Dr. Weck. See, guys, we're friends. We're not. See, this
I figured you'd like that. Things like that just doesn't even
doesn't even
it
happen
doesn't
in
even do that in
cartoons,
cartoons.
Mr. Bugliosi.
No.
Anyway, that okay. That all right.
You account for the other bullet, Mr. Bugliosi.
Anyway, that's another thing.
Um,
You definitely haven't accounted for the bullet fragments from your your five shooters. But anyway,
well, sure, yeah, well, yeah. There's plenty of bullets.
I mean
There's
you got five assassins.
I got five assassins. Yes,
It took it. Four of them failed. One of them did it.
I wouldn't say four of them failed. I mean, they
Professional
hit him
assassins.
and Conley several times.
Professional assassins. It came down to the very last one to get it done.
Well, I mean, according to you, an average shot did it in with three.
Yeah,
So I think my five guys could do it in four.
but I'm talking about one guy,
Yeah, he didn't do the
and
shooting. He never held a
I'm
rifle
not
that
talking
day.
about a professional sniper.
Well, they hit him.
They didn't, but these guys are hired to kill this guy, man.
Well, they did kill him.
At the last moment, at the last moment. If that guy had just fired another neck shot or a back shot, like this whole
Well, we don't even know if he would have survived those shots.
oh,
First of all.
but if he hit it another back shot like this whole motley crew with Roscoe White and all these guys you got, if he missed just a little bit, Kennedy would be alive still. And this whole motley crew that
Well, we don't even know if he would have survived. We don't even know if he would
the
have
neck
survived those
one,
other
I
ones.
agree.
And the one in the back. You
I
wouldn't even know if
actually
he would have
don't think
survived that
I
one.
don't think he would have survived a neck wound.
Well, I don't know what all damage that was done to the organs in his body from that. I mean, where it hit him at. I don't know where it exited at. I'll get into that more in Parkland, but I know they did do a tracheotomy on him. But
Yeah, that's next, fellas.
that's next. So
Any last things?
other than what I touched on earlier, just go look at
Yeah,
CE three ninety nine.
that's what we both have to tell you guys is that you gotta check these things out for yourselves because it's very hard for us to explain these things. Just it's very hard.
And once you see 399, I mean, I hate to say it again, but I'll just close up with that. Once you conclude that C 399,
But you
first of all,
can
should be
admit
more
that for
damage.
you it's very hard to explain that just without showing it.
Yes, it's very hard to explain. Yes, you've got to go look at C 399 for yourself. Once you conclude that that's not that bullet would have came out damaged, and you conclude that that bullet could not create all seven of those wounds, you have to conclude there was a fourth shot,
And
and by
please
definition,
look at it
there
from
was.
both directions. You have to look at it from the rear to
Yeah,
see the damage.
I want you to look at that bullet, look at the
I
comparison
also would
marks,
I
and then you will say
also want people to
that's not a real
watch the
bullet.
Zapruder film, watch the blood spray, watch it go forward, look at the back of Kennedy's head. Nothing happens to it. Please look at these things. And that's where I leave it.
Except for the people. Yeah.
That's where I leave it.
All right, you ready for Parkland next?
Parkland is next, guys. I have two casts in my hands. I can't really write and take notes, so it may take a while, but that's what's next.
Good
All right,
deal.
brother. Love you.
All right, love you,
All
man.
right. Later.